Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of What If Deku Was an Uchiha. Also check out my other videos on my channel. But hope you guys enjoy. After our protagonist was done reading the scroll, he was still surprised at all of the information he just learned. He then walked out of the room with all of the scrolls in hand. There waiting for him was his mother. Inko soon speaks up. So I'm guessing that answered all of your questions? Izuku shook his head no, which in turn made Inko a little confused. Said boy explained soon afterward, how do you know about the Uchihas? Inko laughs a bit, your father told me about his heritage and your son. She soon gives him a small smile and the two head back to their house. Once they got to said house, Izuku was thinking on how to train and practice. He soon goes onto his computer and searches up for places with a lot of trash or just an area in the mountains. After about 20 minutes of searching, he finds two places that he could potentially train at. One area was Takoba Municipal Beach. He had read that this place had trash coming from the sea to the shore for years. And the locals, instead of cleaning it, they had just used it as a dumping ground for their trash. Izuku frowned at that and muttered, are people that lazy? He would most likely want to train there just to at least clean it back up, but he soon looks up at the other location. It was in the mountains close to where he had been at earlier with his mother. Our protagonist smiled and was thinking he will train at Takoba until he cleans it. And hopefully by that time he can practice his ninjutsu at the mountains. He soon went to bed and was thinking on what he should do. I don't really want to be a hero anymore. Not in this rotten society. He soon continues, all of these power-hungry and fame-seekers, he growled, but with that he soon fell asleep. The next day, Izuku had woke up at 5 in the morning. He wanted to train early. So he got up and changed into some workout clothes and also brought one of the scrolls from his father. This one being the scroll that would show him jutsus and also has the basics on the top of said scroll. He soon left his room and walked over to the door to leave his house, all the while stretching. Once he got to the door, he put on his shoes and left. Our protagonist left on a jog towards the beach, and once he got there, Izuku was not surprised about all of the garbage that was there. He soon walked over to the trash and started to try and move some of the larger stuff there. His first choice was a refrigerator. Said boy was trying to move it, but after a minute of struggling he stopped and sighed. Alright, I will just start off small and work my way up. And that's what he did. He started with the smaller stuff, and after a week he made his way up to the refrigerator from a week prior. Alright, he was about to move it, but then he got an idea. Izuku wanted to try a jutsu and he will use the refrigerator as a test dummy. He brings out his scroll and was looking at the basic jutsus there. Once our protagonist's eyes fell on fire style fireball jutsu, he grinned. And soon got up, put the scroll on the floor to his side where he can read it clearly. Alright, the hand signs are serpent, ram/sheep, monkey, boar/pig, horse, and tiger. He soon tries it, fire style fireball jutsu, and at first nothing came out. Our protagonist, being confused, tried again and tries to put more chakra into it. Izuku tries it again and soon it was a small flame, then it turned into a big torrent of one, burning the refrigerator to ash and making our protagonist smile. So I got it second try, neat. The black-haired boy soon glances over at the scroll again. There it read all of the basics. He soon read to the water surface walking practice. Izuku walks over to the ocean and glanced over at the scroll again. So I just got to put chakra on my feet and try to walk on water. Okay Izuku, I got this. He didn't have it. On the first attempt he ended up not getting any footing and slipped. On the second one he was able to take a few steps on the water but fell into said water, which in turn made Izuku soaked. And on the third he got more of a handle on it. He was able to take 7 steps, but then he soon fell again. This time he muttered, I'll get back to this later. Said boy soon goes back to cleaning up the trash, and after a few hours he decided that he was done for today and started walking home. Along the way he stopped at a store wanting to grab something small to eat on the way to his house. It was now noon and our protagonist still haven't ate anything. But once he got to the counter to pay, Some guy with a black hoodie that was over his head went close to the counter and pushed Izuku out of the way. Said boy was confused until he heard the guy shout, "Give me all of your money," and told everyone not to move. Izuku, being bad at listening, moved, which in turn made the robber turn around towards Izuku but didn't see him there. Our protagonist grinned and was thinking the body flicker technique is useful, but I still don't know how to use it that well. But that being said, he appeared behind the man with his Sharingan activated. The robber soon turned around and fired at Izuku. Izuku was able to see the bullet's trajectory and was able to dodge out of the way, making the robber look on in fear with him shouting, "Is that your quirk, kid?" Said kid didn't reply and just body flickered behind him and neck chopped him, which promptly knocked him out. Izuku sighed and moved the guy to the side of the counter and looked at the cashier that was just staring at him in awe. That's when Izuku spoke, "I'm sorry for that, I just don't like." But that's when the cashier cut him off with a smile. "It's okay kid, you saved me from being robbed and you don't have to worry about paying, that's on the house." Izuku was about to interrupt him, but that's when the cashier put his hand out and spoke once again. "Just think of it as a thank you." Our protagonist sighed but soon smiled and thanked the man. He soon went home and told his mother what happened with her smacking him on top of the head, telling him not to look for trouble and to also be careful. Also in that moment Izuku promised himself to never tell his mother about him putting himself in danger. But now we time skip to 1 month later. Izuku got a decent control over his chakra. He had also learned multiple techniques. Also during his training he got his second Tomo on his other Sharingan, which enhanced his eyesight and granted him a boost in strength and speed. Our protagonist also mastered the body flicker technique and cleaned up most of the beach. He had done this by mostly practicing his jutsus, but he had still moved a lot of the trash. Said boy looked over to the beach and smiled, "Alright, I say another month and I will be done here, but for now." Izuku soon grabs a scroll out from his backpack. He grinned and poured chakra inside of it. Also side note, I forgot to mention in the last part in the scroll where it had the Umbu outfit there was also a headband. This being one from Konoha, the Uchiha that had stored most of the clan's information was none other than Sasuke Uchiha. He left his ninja headband along with his sword. But back to the story. Once he put the chakra in the scroll, the items came out. That being the Umbu outfit along with the mask, with a sword and a headband from the leaf. Our protagonist soon looks around and changes into said outfit. He wanted to see how far his training will take him right now. He soon grabbed all of his stuff in his bag and put his mask on. Said boy left to his house first and dropped off his stuff on the roof. But soon after he body flickered away heading towards the city. He wanted to try and stop any villains he came across. And once our protagonist got to the city he looked around. He saw that the sun was going down and our protagonist was thinking that villains like to operate more at night than during the daytime. He grinned and jumped up on the side of the buildings with his chakra. Our protagonist was moving from rooftops to rooftops, but that's when he heard a plea for help. Izuku looked over into said direction and had his hand on his sheath of his blade. He soon rushed over to where he heard the help and noticed that it was in an alleyway. Said boy saw that there was a few thugs trying to rob a girl that looked around his age with pink hair. Izuku soon jumped down behind the thugs, which caught all of their attention, with one of the three turning around to Izuku. "Oi brat, screw off if you know what's good for you." And the other two started laughing. But said brat just unsheathed his katana, making all of the villains feel a little uneasy, but they soon grinned. "Listen brat, if you want trouble you." He got cut off by our protagonist, who threw a shuriken at the man's head, killing him instantly. Said boy soon looks over at the two and points his katana at them and spoke. "Now will you fight or run like a coward?" And as he says this, the three there could see his eyes, which were a vibrant red. The two soon backed away in fear and away from the girl, and tried to run away from Izuku. But Izuku chose violence. Once said boy saw that they were running away, Izuku started doing hand signs and jumped up. He made sure that the two were far enough away from the girl. Izuku shouted fire-style fireball jutsu, and launched said jutsu at the two, which made an explosion that opened up the alleyway they were in and burned the men. Izuku soon landed and turned towards the girl, who in turn backed away in fear, thinking that he was going to attack her next. Izuku sighed and spoke, "Next time just be careful," and left the scene, leaving the girl confused. But she soon smiled and spoke. "Well, at least you could have let me thank you," and as she said this she heard sirens that were coming in her direction, probably because of the big explosion. She then thought to herself, "Well, may I just keep getting into trouble?" But back to our protagonist. He jumped up to the building and glanced back at the girl he saved. But after a second he soon body flickered away. Our protagonist was now on top of a skyscraper where he took off his mask and was reflecting on what he did. That was the first time he took a life, well, 3 at that. He looked at his hands and he didn't like that feeling. The feeling of playing executioner, the feeling of judging another person's life, but in that moment he just done what he felt was right. He had a tear fall down but soon put his mask back on, now having had felt another presence behind him. Izuku turns around and activated his Sharingan. Just in time too, because he dodged 2 lines of what he thought was a scarf thing and backed away from the man. Said man was not hiding no more and appeared in front of Izuku, which revealed his long black hair and tired face that made Izuku think that does this guy have a sleeping problem? But that's when the man spoke. "I saw what you did." He soon gets a good look at our protagonist and speaks up again. "You know that's against the law, I'm sorry, but I will have to take you in." Izuku soon spoke up. "So you saw that and you were going to let that girl die?" Said boy was now angry. That's when he spoke again. "Maybe if you acted I wouldn't have intervened." As he says this he unsheathed his blade once again. Now the pro hero got into a stance as well and spoke up. "I wouldn't have made it in time, I only saw when you attacked the 3 and saved the girl." Izuku now growled and spoke. "Nice to know my view on heroes are correct. You're just mad that I stopped you from getting a paycheck." As he says this he rushes forward. The other man rushed forward as well, throwing his capture weapon towards Izuku. Said boy dodged out of the way and threw shurikens at the hero, making the hero dodge the way with him, noting people don't use that kind of weaponry no more. But he couldn't think about it more because there was a fireball coming towards him. He tried to cancel it with his quirk but he couldn't, which made him shocked. Wait, what? The fireball hit its target and sent the pro hero into the side of a building. Izuku was now looking down at the damage he caused. He sighed and body flickered away, now having had been drained from chakra. From his first time using body flicker constantly and also keeping his Sharingan activated. It took its toll on Izuku. Once our protagonist made it home he made sure to grab his stuff on the roof and put the outfit back into the scroll. When he made it inside the house his mother greeted him from the kitchen and he walked over to his room, where he threw his bag onto his bed and Izuku looked over at his room. It was full of All Might merch still. Our protagonist remembered what the hero had said to him that day. He soon ripped all of the posters off from his walls and anything else that he had All Might related. Even his bedsheets and pillows, and after he gathered them up, he went to the kitchen to grab a bag to put the posters inside of it. Once he did that and grabbed the other items he brought it outside next to the trash can. He soon did hand signs and shouted, "Fire style fireball jutsu." Our protagonist burned the merchandise to a crisp and once it was done Izuku went back to his room. All the while with him thinking, "I know what I want to do now. I'm going to stop villains and heroes my own way." But time skipped to the day of the UA entrance exams. Izuku wanted to see the next generation in action. He also had learned a new jutsus from the scroll, which was Shadow Clone Jutsu and Chidori, but with his chakra level and control right now he is able to make 10 clones at once. Anyways, our protagonist had broke into UA. He wanted to see the practical exams, so he waited on top of a building in one of the exam sites. Our protagonist made sure to stay clear of all the cameras and hid his presence. He soon glanced over at the applicants that were coming into the fake city with him, thinking, "Now which one of you guys will be true heroes?" Said boy gets furious once he notices the ash blonde. He wanted to attack him right there but he chose against it for now, opting to just see how things play out. He was studying all of the applicants' quirks and fighting styles with his Sharingan. Izuku noted that there were exceptions that would probably pass this exams. Also throughout this time Izuku had made a name for himself. People would call him the Red Flash or Demon Eyes or Ghost. But anyways, back to the exams. Izuku was watching in slight interest. It was about to be over, so he just chose to leave, which he did. Once he left said school, we switch over to a chimera dog thing that was looking over the footage. With him thinking so he left. That Vigilante is an odd one. But back to our protagonist, he was sure he got noticed. That's another reason why he wanted to leave early. Said boy was going through the city, and that's when he saw on the corner of his eye a small girl running from a man with a bird mask. Izuku's soon body flickered over to the area and had appeared in front of the small girl. When the girl saw Izuku, she fell back in fear, but soon relief, and rushed over to him and put her arms over his leg. Our protagonist looked down at the small girl that looked like a snowflake, but soon turned his attention back onto the man that was chasing her. Eri, you need to come back with me. The boss will be mad if you don't come back. Said girl just gripped Izuku's leg tighter. With Izuku noting that she is shaking. He growls, then unsheathes his blade. He puts a hand over Eri's head and pats her while also bending down to be at her level. Izuku soon speaks. Now do you want to go away from this man? Eri nods, which in turn made Izuku smile. He soon takes off his mask, revealing his 3-tomo Sharingan. He then hands her his mask and tells her to hold on for that for me and look the other way. Said girl obeys and looks the other way. The man that was chasing her was mad. Hey brat, why don't you just mind your own business? He was going to continue speaking, but that's when he saw Izuku's eyes. The man was now backing away in fear. Wait, you're him, the ghost. He was now shaking and sweating even more so when Izuku took steps towards him. You said this wasn't my business, huh? It is my business when you involve a little girl that was asking for help. He soon vanishes from the man's vision that left birds behind from where he was. Izuku then appeared behind the man with his katana to his neck. Now die. After he killed the man, he slashed his sword to the side to get the blood off from his sword. Izuku soon glances at Eri and walks over to her. When our protagonist got to her, he noticed that she was still shaking and had tears in her eyes. Once he got in front of her, Izuku spoke. Do you want to come with me and live with me now I know you? He got cut off by the girl rushing over to him and hugged him tightly with tears. She then speaks in a quiet tone. Yes, I want to go, I don't want to go back. Izuku smiled softly at the small girl and picked her up. Okay, let's go my little snowflake. But that is the end of this part. If you enjoyed this part, leave a like and subscribe. Also in the comments tell me how this part had came out and what other what ifs I should create.